let's get going into our up close and personal. As I've been saying, it is with Wisaal Abrahams, who will be sharing her insights on the role of women in the Cape Malay Choir Board and the importance of preserving this rich cultural heritage. Now, the Cape Malay Choir Board, now 85 years old, subhanAllah, stands as the only multinational organization that treasures our unique genre of music, especially the highly esteemed Nederlands lied. Now, we also delve into the theme of legacy building as a youth. All right, so let's chat and welcome Wisaal into our studios. She's already sitting down and very comfortable. And we're going to speak all about this heritage, which is the Cape Malay Choir Board heritage. Assalamu alaikum, Wisaal, and welcome.
Wa alaikum salam. Shukran for having me.
All right. How are you doing today?
Fine, alhamdulillah. I'm happy. It's a bit cooler.
But I see you've got your, what do you call that, top on?
Yes, the sports coat.
Sports. Is that what it's called? A sports
yes,
coat?
Sports jacket.
Okay. So she's got a sports jacket which says Cape Malay Choir Board. And what does it say? What is it?
Unity through diversity.
All right, that's interesting. Do you want to, okay, before we touch on that, unity through diversity, let's speak about first, who you are. Can you tell us about yourself? Who is Wisaal Abrahams?
I'm 33 years old, born in, I'm coming from Lansdowne. My parents are from Wynberg. I went to Wynberg Girls Junior School, Wynberg Girls High School. I'm a proud Cape Townian. I'm a producer, an artist, and a coach currently.
Coacher?
So I do leadership coaching, I do conflict management, I work with couples sometimes. So basically people who are struggling with a problem and they need to get from A to B, and I assist them, or let's say I put pressure on them to get from A to B.
Now you're mentioning Wynberg, right? And the only thing I can think of, because I'm from the northern suburbs myself, so I'm thinking Wynberg is where like all the eating liquor places are.
Liquor, yeah. That's why you can see I'm still struggling.
And I'm seeing like Gatsby's, and I'm saying, hey, now, it's okay. It's lunchtime, so maybe that's why I'm thinking of food. But thank you for sharing that. So what role as the Cape Malay Choir Board heritage and digital consultant, what does that entail?
So I got brought on last year when the board was having their birthday, 85 years, as you mentioned. It's a long time. And there was a change in leadership. They had got a very young new president, Ziad Hattas. He's only 43 years old now, so you can imagine going from usually having old Buddhas in charge, and and now you have this young guy, and he's got ideas, but there was a cultural shift that needed to happen on an organizational level to welcome new energy, new ideas. And so the board appointed me as a consultant to help them really just look critically at what was happening inside the organization, looking at their plans and their ideas and seeing from an outside perspective, what can we do to improve when it comes to, how they do things, how they run things. And I think there was also a major concern because they were losing choirs and losing momentum, and let's say the culture was dying from a certain perspective. And so I was brought in to say, okay guys, let's chat, let's have a look at what we're doing, how we can improve. And so far, alhamdulillah, so good.
Wisaal, you mentioned, the old Buddhas and so on, but it's the old Buddhas that's the foundation, that's laid that foundation on which the youth build.
100%. And I think what's very important is that we don't lose memory and we don't lose the stories of our elders, so that when we're taking things forward, we know who we come from, why certain things happened. I think at the moment there's just a big drive to modernize in a certain way. That's where the digitization comes in. And I think on another level also to adapt to how we do things in present time. When it comes to attitudes, it comes to the way we look, the way we dress, the way we interact with people. So I think there's a lot of change, and I think change isn't something in our communities that we're very good at or we're agile at. And so it always helps to have a consultant that you can always blame, and say, it's our fault.
Indeed. Now, Wisaal, how did you grow up? Your family with the Cape Malay Choir.
So
I'd love to know where that interest came from.
So that actually came from. look, I have family that's, obviously involved, but it didn't come from there at all.
Okay.
It actually came from after school, when I started becoming very involved in leadership activity. So I was selected when I was 18 as the South African representative for the UN to go and speak about conflict and things like that in the Netherlands. And I think that really opened my eyes to who I am and my identity, because when you're that young and you put in a position where you have to talk about where you come from and you're representing your country, you realize on a very political level all of a sudden that you have to know yourself. And I think that drove me. And then also I was working at a TV station at the time, Cape Town TV.
Oh yeah.
On a community level, and so they were running programs, and they were running a lot of programs at that time covering all these cultural activities in the Malay sector, and so I was one of the producers on those programs from a very young age. And I think that culmination between being sort of a global youth leader and working in media, I started realizing, hey, this is important, because when it comes to telling stories, these are the stories that we're going to tell.
I just want to go back to, you said you went to the Netherlands. That must have been very daunting at a young age, and you're going, tell us, can you share a bit of that?
Of course, I remember the traumatized. PTSD. No, alhamdulillah, I've been up a few times now. I have a good relationship with the Netherlands, but in the beginning it was very daunting.
Yeah.
I don't think we understand what cold is. When I talk about cold, I mean externally and internally.
Okay.
I think your temperature of your body and what we're used to and what Europeans are used to is completely different. I think that's why they love it here. And I'm being very facetious when I say that. But I think the cold was a real shock for me, not really understanding how to navigate the cold.
At that age,
to survive in the cold, that my clothes were completely insufficient. Your survival instinct really does kick in.
Right.
So I think that was on one level, but then also culturally, when you realize that people aren't as friendly, for example.
No.
People are not as interested in what you have to say. People automatically box you. So for me, I was Pakistani, I was Sri Lankan, I was Mexican, I was everything but Cape Malay. And so you have to defend where you come from and always have to stand up for yourself. And also that they assume that we are a lot further along than we are when it comes to access to information, education, social grooming. There's a lot that goes on that we actually, as being colonized before in our past, there's assumptions that we know stuff that we actually don't. And unfortunately, because the global north still very much runs the global arena in many ways.
Yeah.
When you rock up as someone from the south, the global south, I hate that, but when you rock up as someone from the global south, they see you as that. And so there's always the pressure to know more or to prove yourself. And I think from a young age I realized we have a lot of work to do.
Right. Thank you for sharing that, Wisaal. Wisaal Abrahams, who is sharing her insight on the role of women in the Cape Malay Choir Board and the importance of preserving this rich cultural heritage. So it didn't start completely, it didn't start, the love of the Cape Malay Choir didn't start at home. There you heard it. She had to travel. I couldn't say miles. We don't say miles. We say kilometers. But okay, we know the saying is like miles. Miles to feel the love and to feel what the Cape Malay Choir is about. So when you came back with that knowledge, take us through that.
So I came back and I realized, okay, when you talk about colonization to people, we go into a space called the intellect. And so it's brain on brain. So I'm now competing with someone who's read so many books, and I've read so many books, and we're going to compete about knowledge. But when we talk about colonization through song, it's a very different experience, because I have to say, hold on, wait a minute, can I play you something? And then I put the performance forward and someone listens to that. And I think the word here is metaphysical. It's not something tangible, it's not something logical that happens, but you are moved in a particular way. And I think the movement which happens internally to the person I'm trying to convince about colonization, often they're European or from the north in some way, after watching the song or listening to the song, automatically there is now an attitude of, tell me more. Maybe I don't know enough. Okay, tell me where your people come from. Okay, there's a sort of an openness that happens through music or through, and we experience it through khadat, we experience it through when we make salah every day. We calm ourselves, we soothe ourselves with sound in a particular way. And this is the same principle.
Vibration.
It's the same vibration. And so I think, these songs that we carry and from generation to generation, they hold the gravity of what was happened in the past in a way that books can't describe. And I think that's the importance of it all.
So let's go and get to the preservation of the cultural heritage, right? So why is it important then to preserve the cultural heritage of the Cape Malay Choir Board? Now, particularly, we mentioned the Nederlands lied.
Yes. So I've been granted a fellowship, alhamdulillah, in the Netherlands for April and May, where I'm going to be doing this full time in the Liedbank, which is a bank, literally an archive of songs that live in the Netherlands. And I'm gonna go scratch in there and go look for our songs and figure out where they come from and why we sing them. Because when we discuss this amongst our community and on the board itself, there's a loss in memory. And that memory was very intentional by the colonizers, so that when we lose memory of ourselves and what happens, then automatically we can't hold people accountable, or we can't grow further than what we've sort of been solidified as a people. And so I'll be doing that work, inshallah, in April and May. Make lots of dua for me.
Okay. Speak to us first quickly. What is that scholarship about?
It's by the Institute of International Social History. So the International Institute of Social History, IISG, because G is mos geskiedenis, same like us. So IISG in Amsterdam. I'll be there for 2 months, and I'll be looking up the origin of the songs that we sing, and also canonizing the Cape Malay lied into the archive, because when we go there, they say they don't know who we are. So we need to obviously have a written record of our oral tradition, and I'll be doing that, inshallah, in April and May.
All right. Now coming back to our the question, the importance of the preservation.
Yeah. I think it's important because, again, if people come to South Africa and they don't know that Cape Malay people exist, it's because we haven't solidified our culture. There are lots of cultures that are oral traditions in the world. The Aboriginals, the South Americans, they're examples of this all over the world. But at some point, in order to equalize or to stand toe-to-toe with a former colonizer, you actually do need to formalize your traditions. And I think that is the importance. The importance is to preserve memory. The importance is to show the generations that are coming forward that we have a foundation, we have identity, that we've triumphed over many, many, many hurdles in the past who have tried to eradicate us as a people, as a nation, or try to capitalize on us in terms of labor. So preserving these songs is not about singing, not about partying. It's about showing the world that we are here, that we exist, and that we have a rich culture that was born from fighting for freedom.
Yep. So with the scholarship, what is your main objective and aim, and just coming back with that knowledge?
I think the most important thing for me is to take our people to the Netherlands in some form. So I've already started putting things in place to take a research group over, who also doubles up as a singing group. Because the more I talk about this, the more I show people the videos, the more they go, I wish I could experience it. Well, you can. I can bring them here and we can show you what it sounds like. But obviously, this is something I'm working on. It depends on funding. It depends on our Department of Arts and Culture, how far we get to those applications. But my main objective here is to obviously write the book, put it into the archive, and then to have an annual tour every year for the Slave Memorial Month, which is in July every single year in the Netherlands, and to showcase what we do as a culture.
July would be a good time to go. You won't feel then it's a summer, so you'll be fine.
Alhamdulillah.
A listener wants to know, Wisaal, could I please have a contact information? Are you prepared to share that?
Yes, of course. You can have my WhatsApp number.
Go on. I'm gonna. You can. Will you give it?
It's 071 845 2915.
845
915.
Perfect. There we go. Thank you to the dear listener for that WhatsApp that have come through. You are welcome to send through your comments or questions on 0786 10 11 12. So now, how does the CMCB, if I say CMCB, listeners, it's the Cape Malay Choir Board. Okay, let me rather say Cape Malay Choir Board work to ensure that this unique genre of music is passed down to future generations. So I'm from I'm sure you can see from an Indian background. So I didn't grow up with the Cape Malay culture and heritage. So obviously, in this age of now know what it is, and I've learned. So how does it get passed on? Because I know even in the Indian communities and cultures, that is all fading away. How do we preserve it?
What it takes is it actually takes a generation of young people who are sentimental about their bloodlines. So because of my other research as an artist, like I mentioned, I'm a visual artist, I'm a coach. Because of my other work, I work closely with museums. You actually need a generation that is very curious and very sentimental about their bloodline. So the Cape Malay Choir Board, how do they preserve things? Through families. If you empower someone from a family to preserve their line or to preserve the history within their family, that's how you get it to happen. So at the moment, the CMCB has started a youth council last year. The first time in 85 years, there's a youth council now. I'm currently coaching them. And we have got two girls on our youth council. Before that was, we never had many women in the organization in terms of organizing things. We've had one or two unicorns that came through, but not much and not in a sustainable way. And so through the youth now, investigating how does this Buddha, how is he connected to this one? Oh, this was this one's dad. Finding old photos, digitizing them. That's how you're going to keep things alive. You get young people excited and you give them something to do and you give them something to run with. And I think the critical thing here is to trust that young people know what to do with that information once you give it to them.
I'm just curious to know, we have old people, or not the old, I mustn't say old people, the not so young people. Sometimes it's very difficult for them to
let
go of those reins and also to embrace change.
I find that I obviously have encountered this a lot in the past year, but I find that in those cases to be kind is better. And I always tell the youth the same thing, that we don't know what it's going to be like one day when we're old.
Yeah.
Inshallah,
Patience.
we have to be patient and also understand that sometimes when you know that your time has come, it's hard to be gracious about that because your memory of being, full of energy is more preeminent in the memory of yourself being unable to do things for yourself. And so kindness is something that's quite radical that we practice in this regard. But I think also these types of people, the reason they feel that way is often they feel that they've failed with their own children or in their own spaces with young people where they haven't handed over. And I'd like to encourage any of those people listening right now is that it's not too late to identify someone in your family and talk about legacy.
I mean, and it's not to say that they become redundant. You need, like I said, they are the treasures, they are the gems, they are the ones with the stories.
The diamonds, yes.
So you need them to pass it on. The baton has to be passed on from somewhere. And who's got the wealth of knowledge?
Exactly.
Wisaal, I quickly want to run to the WhatsApp, 0786 10 11 12, and we encourage the listeners to engage with us. So one listener asked us your number, right? And then she says, what is her name? So what is her name? Wisaal Abrahams, that's her name. And, don't say old people. Say senior citizens. Exam on it. Very interesting topic. Thanks, gal. Thank you, me darling, for that WhatsApp. Yeah, seniors, isn't it? Okay, we call them the seniors or the not so young either. Well done, Wisaal, for encouraging our youth to continue with their culture and heritage. I tried connecting the Indian and Malay cultures with the production Laylatul Nabi last year, and alhamdulillah, I have hopes that the youth will continue to preserve our beautiful history and heritage, and that comes from Zarina Sable. And what a beautiful production it was. So well done to you, Zarina, and thank you for that WhatsApp. Just moving on very quickly. Salams, Jamila and guest. For your information, Isa Muhammad was a successful choir coach of the Marines Malay Choir of Wynberg in the 1970s and 1990s. He stemmed from the so-called Indian Cockney community. Oh, okay, that's interesting.
And his son is my auntie's husband.
His son is my auntie, and don't you have Indian blood? Because that's how we always look. Okay, so we say, that one is that one. Okay. So there we are. Very interesting. So it's not just, if they say Cape Malay, it's not just about Malay?
No,
No.
not at all.
Thank you so much to the listeners for interacting with us and sharing. So lovely. There we have it. Do continue on 0786 10 11 12. So we spoke about, the passing on or passing down to future generations. So what challenge or challenges do women face in the Cape Malay Choir Board, and how can these be addressed to encourage more female participation?
Look, I'm going to be frank. What I've seen now, working quite closely with the organization, this is a male choir tradition, right? So you're looking at your brothers, your cousins, your fathers, your grandfathers, your neighbors who identify as male. They are part of these social groups. These social groups, they form in a certain area. So whether it's in a Claremont, a Boka, a Alsies River, a Mitchell's Plain, you have people coming together, usually at someone's home, certain days of the week, and they're singing and they, getting together as men.
True.
So, look, we're not unique in this way. Like any other place on the dunya, unfortunately, this is something our Nabi came and tried to help us with, by furthering the protection and rights of women.
Correct.
It's an ongoing fight, right? So we have domestic violences, we have, situations where our men are not, they don't see the equality in the roles, particularly in the home. So we're still on that fight in many ways, and I think it filters into community organizations, of course, because now we're under pressure, we have leadership positions, we have decision making, and so if you're coming from a very patriarchal place in the home, and where you don't have a lot of you can't make decisions, or you're not encouraged to exercise your freedom or your talent in a particular as a woman, that's obviously going to come into the organization through the men. So, but I also have to give them credit. Working alongside me is not easy. I challenge many things. You can ask my dad. He will give you the lowdown. He survived me for 33 years now. Alhamdulillah. But I challenge these things because it's about growth. And it's about relationships. And it's about respecting one another. And if we can't foster that, then we surely will, die. Anything will die. Everything will die, if not the human spirit itself. And so in our Cape Malay Choir Board culture, we have this thing where our men are still growing internally. They're still understanding what power means. They're still understanding how to relinquish power, how to be kind, compassionate when it comes to everybody. I think when it comes to each other, they've got that down pat. I've never seen male bonding on a level like this before, where you have men coming together like family who are not family. And it's a beautiful thing to see, and it's certainly something that I want to encourage further, because that we also need to see the softness in our fathers and in our brothers. But when it comes to women, a long way to go.
So where do you see the role of women, or where do you see them in terms of the Cape Malay choir?
At the moment, I've got two young women in the youth council, Taiba Kruser and Zahra Hattas. And let me tell you, when it comes to administration, when it comes to decision making, when it comes to ideas, when it comes to media, when it comes to formulating something, I actually rely on them the most.
Yeah, no, and I hear, no, we're good like that. But I mean, in actually, in terms of just the Cape Malay choir, not behind the scenes, being there and singing.
Will we ever sing on the stage? That's an interesting question. It's something I have posed. Look, I think getting the house in order is the first plan. Ask me again next day, inshallah.
Okay, we're going to leave it there. I wonder what the listeners think about that. Having a Cape Malay choir, but having females as well. I don't know. We'll hear what the listeners have to say about that.
Please, that would be great.
Yeah. So, in what ways can the youth get involved in preserving and promoting the cultural heritage of the Cape Malay Choir Board?
I think where we need help right now from all young people is if you have someone in your family that can sing, take a video. Put it on TikTok, tag the Cape Malay Choir Board and say, hey, come fetch him. Or, you can be cute about it. You can say, this is my dad or this is my brother. Not that you want to promote him or he wants to come to us, but we need to start seeing talent. We need talent. We need young talent all the time. We're looking for people, number one. Number two, when it comes to the actual story of colonization and where we fit into that as a people, go and do your homework, guys. Google Cape Malay culture. Google the Dutch East Indies Company actually go on these, I call them rabbit holes, where you go and look for things. If you can make content, tag us. If you're interested in joining our social media club, please come. We're always looking for people who can create content quickly in interesting ways. I think the quicker and the more curious we become as young people about where we come from and how we connect with others, the better for us, inshallah.
Indeed. Thank you so much for that. I'm just thinking, what if you think they sing well and then it's Aina to the ears? No.
That's why we have judges.
How does the theme of legacy building resonate with you personally, Wisaal? And why is it important for the youth to embrace this concept?
This is quite a personal one. So I attended Wamba Girls for 13 years of my life, from preschool all the way to matric. And alhamdulillah, it was probably the best thing my parents ever did for me. And I know they made a lot of sacrifices for that to happen, so shukran. But being at a school, it was transforming slowly, you know. It's a formerly colonized white school. Here you come, you this Muslim girl, you joining, you come from Lansdowne, you know, you interacting with people. And the first thing you realize is, wow, to compete on this level of privilege, you need stuff, right? So, alhamdulillah, my parents supported me as much as they could, but on some level, you realize the competition ends because of privilege, you know?
Okay.
And I think that this idea of legacy for me started at a very young age when I realized that you go into my friends' home, my white friends' home, and you see on the wall their family tree, and then, you know, you see they have a tradition that they've been doing for I don't know how many years of, you know, they do this, they do that.
Yeah.
And it's a practice of keeping wealth and things that are important, traditions, alive. And it's very important. It's very important to them. And I realized that we don't do this. You know, we don't have a family tree on the wall. We don't know 10 generations back, 15 generations back, where we come. And it seems to be not important to us at all. And when someone passes away, there isn't sort of a big meeting around how we're going to do this, how we're going to manage finances, how we're going to keep the money or, you know, we don't talk about these things. And so this old boy, old girl kind of mentality started in me from a very young age until I left school. And I was called on at some point when there was a change in principals to come and assist the school in helping them design a few things, because I'm an artist, obviously. And I had this very deep feeling within me like, okay, it's my turn to give back. You know, it's my turn to give back. I've benefited from the school for 13 years. Now it's time for me to show my school that I went out there and I made something of myself and I can give back without asking from me, you know. And this mentality is something I'm trying to foster now in the young people in the organization, but also because we are a community and a, let's say, inverted commas, colored organization. We need to think about the next 10 years, 15 years, as if we're not rushing anyway, but that we're building something slowly and beautifully that can continue for the next 85 years.
Inshallah. Can you perhaps speak to us about any initiatives or programs that the Cape Malay Choir Board has in place to support and mentor young women in the organization?
Yes, currently we have this coaching initiative that I started last year, where we do free coaching sessions. We have one coming this Sunday. We'll be inviting all heads of choirs, and they have to send an under 35 representative as well. We encourage females to apply or to come. It's taking place at the castle. The castle is hosting all our things, and shukran to Calvin Gilfern, the CEO, for supporting us. He never charges us for these things. Again, taking people back into heritage spaces, talking about how we've come through the season, what is the feedback. So specifically not for women, but the only way we're going to do this is to encourage women to attend these male-dominated, usually arenas or meeting spaces. And I know there are women that are sitting at home right now that are saying, I wish I could be. You can.
Yeah, and as we know, where does the education start? Who's the first teachers?
Our mothers. Or like the famous poet Naira Wahid says, my mother is the first country where I ever lived. You know, so it really is
profound.
Yeah.
Wow. Right, so there we have it. Just repeat, this program is going to be taking place. It's at the castle.
On the castle on Sunday. We have a khatam coming up on the 23rd of February at the Constantia Kramat. Please do come. If the Kramat guys are listening, we must still come and ask you guys permission, but we're coming on the weekend to speak to you. But the 23rd of February at the Constantia Kramat is our khatam. And then, of course, we're going to Ramadan. We'll be doing a lot of food parcels and outreach in Ramadan, inshallah. But then also with coming into May, we have the Afrikaans 100 festival happening in the Boer Cup. We will be celebrating 100 years of Afrikaans. Obviously, we know it's much longer than that. That's part of the reason why we're there. But Afrikaans, for all purposes, 100 years old this year, 2025. And so there'll be a big celebration in the Boer Cup, and we will be part of that. So look out for that.
Wat soort Afrikaans praat ons nou van? Die Afrikaans met
Hulle praat van die suiwer Afrikaans. But we know Kombuis is a lot older.
So watter ene is nou, watter ene, which one is being celebrated? The Kombuis or the soy?
The suiwer.
Okay, ons gaan wag tot daai tyd en dan kan ons sien wat gaan gebeur. All right, let's move on and speak about how can the community at large support the efforts of the Cape Malay Choir Board in preserving its cultural heritage.
I think by supporting your team. Everyone has a team. There are currently 13, will be 15 teams this year, inshallah. Two more have joined us, alhamdulillah. We're growing again. But there are 13 teams currently, and support your team. Wherever you are on the Cape Flats, if you're not in the Cape Flats, if you're in Claremont or town, but find the team that practices in your area. There is a team in your area, I promise you. Just look it up. Support your team. They're often selling jackets, hoodies of a very good quality, guys. You don't need to go to H&M anymore. You don't need to go to Cotton On. Your choir team, I promise you, their merch. Your merch is way better than any other Zionist supporting organization. So please support the choirs with their merch. You can also find out where they perform. They do performances throughout the year. Obviously, our competition is in November. That's the big competitions in November. So you have a lot of time to find a choir, to buy their clothes, to support them, because at the end of the day, this is how we're going to end up growing the Cape Malay Choir Board. There is no board without our teams. So find whoever's in your area, find out which team they are, and I promise you, you'll never look as good in a hoodie as when you're wearing a choir's hoodie.
Right, so let's speak about technology, right?
Yes.
And speak about the role. What role do you see technology playing in the preservation and, of course, the promotion of the Cape Malay Choir Board's music and traditions?
So, big part of digitization is about preserving heritage, actually. It's a big drive in museums across the world. It will always be a big drive, I think, for the next 5 years. With the introduction of AI, the world is changing very rapidly.
Sure.
In the next 2 years, we're not gonna recognize actually the space that we're currently in, and so it's very important that oral traditions, like I mentioned earlier, start to digitize. One of the ways we're trying to do that now is to get a Spotify account so we can start uploading our songs. At the moment, we have a challenge where we need to record the song in a good way. Maybe we should talk to you about that, and so that we can actually upload it and give it to our people freely, and they can listen to it. That's one way of doing things. Another way is to actually take all our artifacts from the past. We have like blazers, we have trophies, we have old photographs, we have letters from books of minutes of the past, things like that, and actually curate it into some form of an exhibition that we can digitize. They can live online.
Is that going to be your next
That's my baby,
project?
Inshallah. Once I've gotten past my fellowship, inshallah.
All right. What else?
So the youth are very keen on running like a television show, an online show where they actually want to stream the competitions to people. When I go over to the Nederlands now, inshallah, I'm going to find out if there is an audience or an appetite for that, because I think Dutch people should listen to this. I think the Dutch audience should know that there is a place in the world where they actually caused a lot of damage, where people are still performing the Nederlands lied. And there's a very, very robust competition around it. And it's a beautiful thing. So, inshallah, let's see if there's an audience available. But the youth are they are ready to put this thing on TV.
All right, we spoke about 85 years in existence, right? So is there any upcoming events or projects that the Cape Malay Choir Board is working on to celebrate the 85th anniversary?
So the 85th was actually last year.
Was it last year?
We're 86 this year. And so last year, the big drive, I can just catch you up on that, was a rebrand. The first executive meeting I attended, they showed me the logo and all these things, and they were all pixelated and I said, okay guys, the first thing we're gonna do is we need to get proper digital copies of these things. We need to redraw them at 85 years. So my first thing was to redo the logo, making sure we have a brand book, making sure we actually, we look like an organization that has survived 85
So
years.
is that it?
This is the new logo.
So speak to us about that logo. I see there's flower.
Yeah, the Protea.
Protea,
We South
the same.
African, yes. This is two male hands actually shaking hands.
Yes.
And
What does that represent?
that's the unity.
Okay.
That's the unity. So that's us, the brotherhood, different cultures within, as we spoke about earlier, within the Cape Malay culture, these different kinds
Cultures.
of people. Exactly. So that's that. And then we actually had the old slogan before of the apartheid,
Which
was strength through unity. And now we actually changed ours last year to unity through diversity, because we are diverse and we're not going to pretend to be anything else. Our strength actually lies within that diversity.
Right. So is there any, so the celebration was, so now it's 86 years on,
So
right?
86 year, last year was more of a consolidation year,
Okay.
looking at where the gaps are. Alhamdulillah, we completed a full season for the first time since COVID-19, where we did all our events. There was a lot of criticism from the community. I think it's fair. We didn't have funding. I think people don't understand when it comes to a community organization that's also associated with a religion like Islam, because of our history. We can't take money from the lottery. We can't take money from Hollywood bets. We can't take money from... So there's a lot of limitations from where we can actually receive money from.
Yeah.
And so that's an ongoing struggle. And it's a lot of these Buddhas that we spoke about earlier that put their hands in their pockets, alhamdulillah, that put up their team, that sponsor halal, in a halal fashion.
Yeah.
And so this year, the goal is to now, okay, we know now what the problems are. We've identified where we need to get better. Inshallah, this year we just need to now ramp it up a notch.
Inshallah. So how do you balance then the traditional aspects of the Cape Malay Choir Board with the need to innovate and stay relevant, because that's important in today's world?
I think, there's such a difficult topic, I think, with everything, How do you retain... I mean, if we're looking at our religion, for example, it's the same, we look at anything. How do you keep something beautiful and pure, but still manage to be in a context where it makes sense? And I think that it's a constant conversation. And the way we're going to achieve that is by bringing the youth, who we call the youth council, but actually they're more like a youth board because they actually do things, is to marry those two, is to bring young people's voices into a decision-making place, and also bringing women's voices into a decision-making place and have an inclusive place of decision-making. And I think that is actually how we're going to solve that issue. By innovating, because we have youth voices there, but we're still preserving what is important by having our elders present as well.
Absolutely. Love that. So let's, on the final note then, Wisaal, the message you'd like to leave with our listeners about the importance of preserving cultural heritage and building a legacy for future generations.
I think I'm just gonna echo what our slogan is for the CMCB at the moment for our campaign, which is Legacy Starts at Home. Go back to your roots, go speak to your family members, have those conversations. You have an amazing tool at your disposal. It's called a smartphone. Everyone has one. If you need to record an interview with your mother, with your father, with your grandfather, don't leave it too late, and retain those voices of our elders, because we will need them in the future, inshallah.
Indeed. Thank you so much to you, Wisaal, and everything of the best with your travels and your projects and your studies. And inshallah, we'll have you back to find out more.
Shukran so much, Mila.